Hi, I'm Nikhil. I'm co-founder, CEO of Zolo States.
So, Nikhil, welcome to the Founder Thesis podcast. Can you tell me, what were like the pivotal moments in your life that shaped you, that made you who you are today? When you look back, what are those pivotal moments?
Not sure about moments, but there are some pivotal values which have fundamentally made me who I am. One of the key things that while growing up, my parents used to emphasize is that do whatever you do, it doesn't matter what you do. What is important is you do it with all your heart. It's a small life. I mean, in the larger scheme of the universe, you and I are nothing. Our lives are such a small duration that, and after 200 years, 100 years, nobody's gonna give a shit about either of us here. In the larger scheme of things, we don't matter. So instead of taking it nihilistically, I'm not saying it in a nihilism fashion that, oh, since we don't matter, we don't need to do anything. Versus since we don't matter in the larger scheme of things, we at least ought to live our lives fully. And that was something that my parents, especially my mother, used to insist. "Ki do whatever you do. You want to play, you play. You want to be a cricketer, you be a cricketer. You want to be a badminton player, you be a player. You want to study, study. You don't want to do anything. It's okay. Sit at home. But chill, enjoy, live life to fullest. That's also an option. It's not off the table. So do whatever you do with all your heart. And if you can't do something or if you can't do your core work with all your heart, then change. Something is wrong. Nothing is more precious than life itself.
Was your mother working or like a stay-at-home mom?
My my mother is a doctor, so in fact,
Okay.
she has 4 degrees. She has
Wow.
BSc, MBBS, one MD, two MD. so,
Yes. Okay.
uh, so
So she
she's
inspired
far
you
more
to be a
educated than
doctor?
me. No,
Okay.
no, no.
Okay.
She in fact asked me not to be a doctor. Uh,
What made you want to be a doctor? I mean, you got into AIMS, which is, I think, the
yeah.
most competitive place to be. In the medical stream, it is the most competitive place. So obviously, you must be motivated to clear that.
Uh, I don't know if it was motivation or I had fallen in love with studies or subjects per se. What made me choose medicine was the fear per se of not being able to clear IIT. I belong to a very very small town. From there, AIMS, IIT, these things were unheard of. Like there was one guy who
Which
cleared IIT.
which town? Which state?
It's a small town called Faridkot near Pakistan border.
Oh wow.
So I
Okay.
studied then till 12th there only. So in Faridkot, EAMS before me was 16 years back. IIT before me was 5 years back, 4 years back, or 6 years back. And by the time the stories reach you, right? They're like that guy used to study for 18 hours a day. That guy used to study for 22 hours a day. And I was like, dude, I can't make it to IIT, man. I can't study for 22 hours a day. I need my time. I need to play. I just can't do this.
Okay.
So in doctor, because we were in the medical campus or a medical college was there, and I could see doctor to sab koi ban jata hai. Doctor is the easier one. That let me take a path which seems easier because there's so many doctors around me. So this
Yeah.
seems to be a achievable goal because I know all these doctors and they seem to be normal human beings, good human
Hmm.
beings. So let me try medicine. When I decided to choose medicine in 11th, uh, then my mother and parents both basically told, look, you are not the doctor type. Uh, Doctor types are people who work, who operate in a straight line, don't ask too many questions. They're happy doing their job, which is a predefined work. You've been asking us questions since you're born. Why should I do this? Why should I not do this? In fact, the biggest question of life, like I flunked seventh grade. One of the biggest questions of life was why should I even study? Uh, so, so that couldn't be answered till 10th, and by 10th, almost the question started getting answered. I started enjoying science, and I started enjoying understanding the world. through the lens of science. So at some point it got answered, but she was like that. Look, doctors are not too curious a soul. Doctors are more into best practices, more into doing what is their charter. And at some point, but I was too immature. I was 14 and a half when I made that decision. I was the youngest in the class. So by the time I got to Ames, I was only 16 and a half. So it sort of was, you can say, immaturity. There was no internet then. You could not really go Google that what actually does it take to go to IIT. All I knew was it takes 22 hours of study, and I was like, dude, that ain't happening. Uh,
Uh,
so
how did that
then
decade at Ames shape you? You spent about 8 years, more than 8 years at Ames. How did that shape you?
I think personality shaping happened in Ames, value shaping happened during childhood. So at Ames, we were taught to be bold. We were taught to be, and not by just the college, by actually hostel and peers more than anything else. Our Ames Student Union was one of the most powerful unions in the country, and I don't know if it still is. Like for example, we 1970s when there was in 80s when there was emergency, Ames Union was the only union to break the law and get arrested. The entire union got arrested.
Wow.
Then, when we were there, there was a youth for equality movement where eventually 20 lakh people across the country participated. Was started by a friend of mine, and I was the third follower of his. I wouldn't say started by me at all, even though I was third, because I was really skeptical. Because how can you go and change law of parliament? That guy believed, I didn't. uh, but I was the third guy, so I had the fortune of seeing it from
This was
inception.
the anti-reservation movement, is it? Like against
Yeah,
reservation
where
thing.
they
That was the,
suddenly added 27% into central institutes.
the Mandal Commission era.
27%. Yeah, Mandal 2, yes.
Okay, okay,
Where
okay.
eventually we compromised that, okay, you don't cut general seats, you give seats to whoever you want to give, but just add, don't cut. So that movement was started by a friend of mine, very close friend, and as I said, I was his third follower. Wouldn't at all say I was initiator of that. So, so we were taught to never accept the wrong thing. Taught is a wrong word. We just observed it happening, and you just imbibe. Taught
Yeah, yeah,
seems a
through
little pedagogical.
osmosis.
Osmosis, yeah, there was no pedagogy here, it's just osmosis. There were people who would do anything when 9/11 happened. So many are in, if I were to continue medicine, our final US exam happens in US if you have to go to US. So many of my friends who were hoping to go to US and suddenly there are no visas, they didn't feel deterred, they didn't complain. They just found another way, which actually worked out way better. Or most of them went to John Hopkins and Harvard for their student MPHs and another degree. And they completed a degree as well as the medical exam. And that degree eventually helped in the long run.
You didn't
So
want to
if
go to the US?
I went to Singapore, not
Okay,
US.
okay.
I wanted to try international first once before quitting medicine because didn't want to repeat the same mistake. Mistake is a wrong word. I wouldn't call Ames a
But
mistake
you
at all.
you were disillusioned with medicine, like you knew it's not for me.
Disillusioned, not exactly that word, but maybe the outcome is the same. I somehow could not enjoy that process. I tried in various ways. Like at 5 o'clock, I will start looking at my watch and like, when will 5:30 happen and when will Nikhil scoot from here?
Yeah,
And
okay.
that's not the life somehow I have ever imagined for myself.
Which doesn't
If
match
I,
with your values. Like your values, if you're doing
yeah,
something, do it with your heart. So that
yeah,
didn't
yeah,
match.
I'm a all-in guy.
Yeah.
Like they say in poker, right? I go all in or I don't go.
Okay.
I don't like that sitting at the fences or the sides and playing around the sides.
And you
So
specialize in
that
psychology,
psychiatry,
psychiatry.
ology,
Okay.
and iatry have slight difference in terms of what previous
Sorry,
degree do you want.
I always get confused between the two. What's the difference technically?
Iatry or psychiatry is basically what doctors choose, where it's prima facie to deal with medicines to treat patients. psychology is chosen, and multiple streams can
Counselors.
get into psychology, where therapy is the mainstay of treatment. Although if you do PhD and become a clinical psychologist in PhD, you still get authority to write few drugs. But as such, psychology mainstay of treatment remains therapy, and for psychiatry,
Okay.
the mainstay of treatment remains medicines. So
Understood.
that's the
Okay.
main difference.
Okay. 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 Understood. Right. So you did that 1 year stint abroad, but you
I
still
practiced
decided
three
this
years
is
in
not
AIMS also.
okay.
I practiced in oncology, practiced in various departments. Oncology I liked from an intellectual challenge standpoint, but it was tough to see so many people dying every day, and I tend to I tend to connect I with people and including patients then. So it was becoming a little difficult from a emotional standpoint. I was not able to sort of move on from that place, that
That
it's okay,
detachment
that's
which
better.
a doctor
That
has, that
detachment was
uh,
that I couldn't really achieve well. Although
okay.
intellectually I loved oncology, it was a difficult field and fairly complicated. You need to like really be on your toes. So intellectually I liked that field, but emotionally it was hard to sort of manage. Then moved to psychiatry, which was emotionally and intellectually both okay, but didn't really uh, click on that angle. And the biggest problem was I could more or less see my future. That today I am a junior resident, then I'll become a senior resident, then I'll become an assistant professor, then I'll become a professor, and then it was more like. And the day I decided I'm out was the day I wrote my obituary. Uh,
Oh wow. Okay.
and I could
What
clearly
what
write
was
my
the obituary?
obituary.
Do you remember?
Some parts, I mean, I won't remember verbatim, but that Dr. Nikhil Sikri was a great doctor. He was kind to patients. He really worked in the best interest of the patients. Then he graduated from here, then became, like I told you, right, junior resident,
Uh,
senior
uh,
resident, professor,
uh,
and died.
uh.
I was like, no, no, no. This ain't my obituary. This ain't
Oh
my
man.
obituary. My
Okay.
obituary
Okay.
has to be a little more
Uh,
interesting than that.
uh, uh,
Uh, I might go down in the history saying Dr. Nikhil Sigri was a weird, crazy ass guy who
uh.
started as a good doctor, then was selling chai on the streets or was selling nariyal pani on the streets, and then unfortunately couldn't make it, and he died on the street pauper. I'll prefer that obituary. Then I'll prefer that he went in a straight line and that line culminated somewhere. So that straight line was a challenge in some sense. I wanted uncertainty from life, and as they say, be careful what you wish for. You'll just get it one day.
Okay.
And I think God
Uh,
gave me too much uncertainty. Now I sometimes wish, God, come on, like 1 week, 1 week of certainty without anything going off.
uh.
So yeah,
So
it's one has
what
to be
next? Like
careful.
you decide you went for an MBA then? Like straight after once you
Yeah.
wrote your obituary, you started applying for. Why did you think of MBA? Because it's a good way to change your path, right? Like you invest a year or two, and then you will get a job and into a new domain with a reasonably good
Yeah,
salary.
for doctors, I don't think there is any other way to enter business. If you enter without MBA, you get this typical medical transcription jobs and all that. You don't really get any core business job per se. So for me, it was not really a choice so much. There was no other field for me to crack business side of the world. Plus MBA being a generalist course, which little bit I knew, I knew that okay, there will be a lot of choices post MBA as well, and including my likeness for the subject then, which was finance. I used to trade a lot. In fact, I paid most of my ISB fee through my trading profits.
Oh wow.
Uh, then, but core finance jobs, when I got to that, I realized, oh, dude, this is same shit as medicine, man. This is like, this is rules, accounting standards, this standard, that standard. I'm not doing a classic finance job. I mean, trading was fun, but and nobody wanted me to be a trader in India at least. There are very few trading desks in India, most prop desks, and very few like real trading large desks. Uh, so nobody wanted me as a trader. Typical finance job, I wasn't okay. Then luckily, I found consulting, And the run up to consulting was really fun. And I would say the one of the most life changing experiences was a couple of months of preparation that we did for consulting interviews, where basically you master the art of structured thinking, and that has contributed a lot to my whatever limited success I've had so far. That has contributed a lot to that success, because how do you
What
solve problems?
can, like, for somebody who's never given a consulting interview, worked in a consulting company, uh, what's an example of non-consultant thinking versus consultant thinking? Like, if you can just, like that structured thinking, can you help me understand it through an example that a non-consultant will solve a problem like this, but a consultant will solve it like this?
Let's make it more fun. Why don't you throw any problem at me and let me try and structure the answer for you?
Okay, interesting. Okay, so let's say, I think that there's something I'm personally currently kind of experimenting with. There is a need in the market for career services for mid-level people. So someone who's at, let's say, a 30 lakh salary, he doesn't necessarily get his next job by doing a course from an edtech. There are edtech companies who are
Mhm.
tackling the more entry level. So, is there a way to monetize this opportunity? Mid level career professionals who need help, maybe they need help more generic, like how to make a good CV, how to work on yourself, so that whatever. Okay, so here's my
Sure.
problem statement. Is there a way to
Fair.
monetize?
So,
Yeah.
sure. So, I'll not even address exactly the problem statement, because structured thinking doesn't allow you to come to answer, rather, answer has to reveal itself. So, first of all, I will start with is there a problem? Uh, First and foremost, if there is a problem, yes, then what are the ways to solve the problem? If you find a way to solve the problem, then which of the way will be a scalable way? Are you actually, I missed, because we are doing like very runtime, so I missed some bits. I'll go back also. Before, is there a problem? Why are you even trying to do it? Because you have to start with that thought process. Why are you even trying to do it? What are you looking to gain out of it? Is it a lifestyle business, or is it a scalable funded business you're trying to build?
Hmm.
If it's
Hmm.
a lifestyle business, the approach goes very different. If it's a
Right.
scalable business, the approach goes very different. If it's a lifestyle business, then what is the investment that you're willing to put? Are you willing to put only reinvested profits into the game, or are you willing to put some capital that you have saved so far? If you're willing to put reinvested profits, the answer is going to be very different. If you're willing to put some of your skin in the game, capital in the game, answer is going to be very different. If you want to do it in a scaled offering, do you have enough credentials and credibility in the past to go and convince a venture capital fund or an angel fund? If you don't have credentials and capabilities, then the answer is going to be very different. If you have, answer is going to be very different. I'm not saying you can't do it or you can't raise money. If you don't have any credentials now, get credentials now, or start the business. There's nothing better than proof of the business as business itself. So you will basically cut the problem statement into various pieces, and at different thread, the answers vary drastically. Uh, so, and each thread, as you keep peeling down, let's say if I peel the thread of lifestyle business and I don't want to put any capital of mine for the time being, then if you don't want to put any capital of mind, if it's a lifestyle business, then obviously it has to sort of grow organically. For it to grow organically, do you have the first set of customers in mind? Do you have the first offering in mind? What do you mean by offering? When you sort of think about offerings, what do you even mean by offering? When you've defined that they need guidance, what do you really mean by guidance? Is it just gyan, or is it like actionable steps? If it is just gyan, then, or maybe it's both. If it is both, so I hope you're following the thread. I can
Yeah.
go on for next 45 minutes.
Yeah.
So,
No, no, no. I understand. Okay.
but you're
Okay.
getting the point.
Hmm.
What I'm saying is that
Yeah.
when you
Yeah.
structure your thoughts in a
Hmm.
structured approach to a problem solving, it
Hmm.
allows you to get a lot of clarity in your head. It allows you to not get confused. It starts with the agenda. I mean, different problems will have different frameworks as well. There is no one framework, structured
Yeah.
approach. You will have hundreds of frameworks to solve anything in life.
And it is so surprising that they don't teach this in a B school. Or at least at my time, they didn't. I don't know if it's
No,
changed
they
now.
don't teach at B school. You got to learn at B school with your
Yeah.
peers.
Mhm. True, true, true,
So,
true.
I mean, that's what I said. 3 months on to the preparation were magical or amazing because we had a group of 4 or 5 people. We used to keep doing cases. And at some point, it had become our second nature of thinking for like 5, 6 of us and maybe more. I don't know about rest. Like no matter what we'll see, like if we'll see like one day I remember we were all like, dude, we need to stop this thing. So we're sitting in an auto and we see a poster of uh, South Indian movie where there was a sort of an, I wouldn't say very nice shot of a actress and a actor being a very macho sort of thing. And then we were like, why does this happen? Then one guy is like, because actress, the two key variables or two key value offerings that people are looking are mostly around the physical aspects, and that's very commoditized. For hero, they are bypassing physical aspect and they're getting into style and psychological aspects. So that's more nuanced. There's a capability to build a differentiation. I'm like, dude, just stop, man, stop. If we are,
Okay.
so, so yeah,
So,
but you have to learn. I think the best place to learn is a B school. They don't teach you
yeah,
there.
yeah,
That's a
yeah.
whole different thing.
True, true. So you gone into Deloitte thanks to this preparation. What next? Like you didn't like it at Deloitte because you left within a year, I guess, of joining.
Yeah. And I was clear. I wanted to do startup. I, in fact, wanted to take the ISP program of dropping out, and there's some entrepreneurship program where you can drop out and later sit
Uh,
in placements again. Uh,
okay.
but at that point, for the first time in life, my parents asked me something. They were like, "We are not able to appreciate what is your problem with bread and butter." At some point, like whenever you start earning bread, and you're like, "Oh no, I don't want it anymore." So uh, that was the first time they had asked something. They had asked basically work for 2 years. If it doesn't work for you, quit it. So I worked technically for almost 2.5, 3 years. 1 year in Deloitte, 2 years in Cerner.
And what was your
More or
role at
less,
Cerner?
I was supposed to work with India market entry of Cerner products. So we
And
got
what is Cerner?
Cerner is world's largest healthcare IT company. So
Okay.
they sell electronic medical records and some other products. So I was
Hmm.
supposed to lead the India market entry for Cerner.
Okay. So their clients would be hospitals.
Hospitals, even companies. So there are some wellness products, etc. So we
Okay.
were trying both sides. We had some early success with government and one or two corporates. Uh, some approvals inside never moved. But that's anyway. Now I can understand why. At that time, I used to feel, "What the hell is this?" Now I totally understand why. Now at that time I had a grudgy feeling. Now I have zero grudgy feeling because I can totally
Why
understand
is it
why.
like why weren't they able to sell in India?
No, there were some clients who wanted it, but with some government clients, the organization saw a brand risk, and for some private clients, the cost of changing the product was not making sense, especially given that majority of that product for the corporate clients was driven out of US, not out of India. So US cost per hour is too expensive.
Right.
So at that time, I felt that, oh, you're not thinking straight. Why are you thinking about brand risk, strand risk? Let's do business. Now I understand. No, dude. Brand is much bigger than business. Brand is much bigger than couple of dollars here and there. Uh, that's okay. At that time, I felt a little off, but now I can totally understand that it was a very sound and a good way of thinking.
So what led to Zolo? After Cerner is when you started Zolo. How did the idea come to you?
So Akhil and Sneha were already working on an edtech product, and I was sort of moonlighting with them in
And
some
how do you
sense.
know Akhil and Sneha?
Akhil, I know since I was 2.5 years old because he's my
Okay.
younger brother.
Okay. Okay.
Sneha and I met in Deloitte.
Okay.
Uh, So these guys were sort of working on an edtech product. Uh, I was also pumping all my salary into that, and at some point we went bankrupt. We had like $300 left. At that time, we had to choose like either go back to our jobs or give one last shot in terms of trying if we can raise some capital from outside on some idea. EdTech was taboo then. 2013 is what I'm talking about. 14,
Yeah.
sorry, 14.
Yeah. Too
EdTech
early.
was a big taboo because so many good souls had killed themselves trying to educate schools on that they ought to do something about their curriculum, etc. Uh, and then we moved on. We were searching for a lot of ideas. We were piloting, testing, and in that search, we stumbled on to this PG market. I still remember going to Kundanahalli. There is an area called Kundanahalli in Bangalore. And for as long as your eyes can go, there are PGs. As far as your eyes can go, there are just PGs, PGs, PGs. And I was like, dude, there is a 200 crore business to be made, my right and my left. And let's
Okay.
just get going. And also the problem statement really sort of appealed to us because the quality at that point of time was horrible. Now quality has still improved drastically. Like, and that's one thing that sometimes when people ask me that what is the most, that is the one thing that you're really proud of after starting Zolo, is that we've not only done whatever we have done, we've really uplifted the entire industry by a very big margin. So if Zolo is serving 60,000 people today, there are in Bangalore alone there are 10 lakh people who are really living a great life because some point people realize that look, if we don't up our game, these guys are gonna kill us like anything. And they are also micro entrepreneurs, right? They're not idiots, so they also up their game fast. So we sort of uplifted the entire industry by a very big margin, and that's something I'm really proud of. So today, even local guys, if you go to, are not really pathetic. I mean, good, bad, I don't want to comment, but 10 years back, it was so bad that one of my co-founders literally puked when we entered a property to just do some surveys and ran out and literally puked. It was so bad. So we felt that it's a good thing. I think we can make a good commercial outcome here. There is a tech play here. There is a heavy ops play here. You're really touching a lot of lives directly and indirectly. Like I said, indirectly is actually much bigger contribution of ours than even directly. Uh, so that sort of felt right, and we started on the play. And luckily,
Did
we
you,
had
as a consultant, you must have done some sort of market sizing, like what's the TAM here and all, and like tell me
yeah.
that what you thought as a consultant, and did that actually prove to be true, or because there must have been some naivety as an outsider initially.
Right, in India till 2021, every market size was inflated by 5x. Yeah.
Okay, and why do you
Why do
say
you
till
think there was?
2021? After that, did
Because
the estimate
capital
come
was
down, or
cheap,
did the
no?
market go up? Okay,
No, neither. It's just
okay.
believability went down. Because when money
Okay.
is cheap, everything is believable. When money is not cheap, then everybody wants to dig deeper into 10 levels and 10 levels and 20 levels.
Okay,
Uh,
okay.
so till 2021, when Fed had zero interest rate, money was cheap. There were seed rounds of $100 million. So there was one
Yeah.
company. I mean, we all everyone would know. 7 months it made to a unicorn. They didn't even have a full product yet at that point of time, in a sense, and there was no plan of monetization. But we are a unicorn. $1 billion is something
Yeah,
like
yeah,
seven,
yeah,
8,000 crore valuation. It means something. There are
yeah,
banks decently doing small size cooperative banks which don't
yeah,
get to that valuation, and they make money.
yeah,
They make like real shitload of money.
yeah, yeah.
So till then, all market sizes were very believable, very large. Yeah, it was not
But
just
what was
us. I
your
think we
your
thought.
way of thinking? Like, how did you think about it? I just want to hear that thought process.
So we went down from the supply side. So our assessments haven't changed for last 10 years a lot. When you do demand side assessments, then you can go really off.
Okay.
We went from supply side that
And what
look
is the
how many
difference
total,
between demand side supply? So demand side will be there are a
starting
hundred
from
thousand
Indian
employees.
census
Acha,
data.
okay, okay,
There
okay,
are
okay. Huh.
20, 40 crore people, out of which
Yeah.
these many are migrants, out of which these many will need, out of which this many will not need, etc., etc.
Okay, okay,
We
okay.
start from supply side. Total number of buildings, total number of PGs, total number of this in Bangalore. How much we know? Our estimates have moved by like only 20-30%, which was basically some extrapolation we did of that these many buildings will be there. Turns out it was slightly lesser. Uh, but fundamentally, we haven't changed our estimates a lot because they were more supply side estimates.
Okay.
But yeah,
And
as far
you
as
made
market
your
size,
estimate of the market size or of your projected revenue? Which estimates are you talking about?
market size,
Okay. Okay.
projected revenue. Obviously, COVID came, so everything went for a toss.
Right,
Uh,
right, 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 right.
like if it wouldn't have been for COVID, life would have looked very, very different for Zolo.
Mm.
Uh, so
So,
if your core market
coming back to that
just well,
initial stage, so you were standing there and you saw 200 crores of business on your left and right. Then what?
then we raised money from Nexus as seed round.
Purely on the
Uh,
idea.
idea and some basic execution of a month and a half,
What
where
did
we
you
had
do?
built some tech. So we had gotten to some prima facie product market fit, where we could see a scope for curating a certain set of inventory for customers, very similar to OYO model for PGs, the OYO initial model for PG.
Okay. Okay.
So that sort of clicked well.
Which was like a demand aggregation, basically.
Yeah, demand aggregation for the most part. Although we moved to full stack model within 1 year of that because we realized कि यार ये नहीं चलेगा. Uh, because if you're not building a brand in terms of strength of yours, तो demand aggregation alone तो नहीं चलेगा. That's not enough because people are not switching so often in this business at least. In any business, I feel that pure demand aggregation can work, but not risk taking or inventory taking demand aggregation. Uh, so, like OYO has now, which is
What
a
does
pure
that
demand
mean?
aggregator
Sorry.
model.
I didn't understand. What do you mean by that? Like pure demand aggregation can work, but not risk taking?
So, OYO right now is a pure demand aggregator.
Hmm. Right.
Uh, so,
They're not giving
uh,
any guaranteed revenue to the hotel
yeah,
part.
right now is a pure demand aggregator.
Huh, huh.
The previous model they had was, "Ki, look, I am giving you some guaranteed, I am taking inventory risk alongside you,
Okay. Okay.
but I'm not managing operations." So that's a very
Ah,
tricky model where who
okay.
is taking ownership of the customer sort of gets divided because that person doesn't have a financial risk involved in taking ownership of your customers because he's been paid for. And you are not taking ownership directly, it's indirect. So it gets very tricky. So today's OYO model is a much purer and much more scalable and much more neater model. Uh, and our model was that 8 years back, 10 years back, 10 years back, not 8 years back. But it didn't feel enough for PG segment because people don't switch every day. Like in hotels, demand sort of walks out every day. So you need demand aggregators, even if you're a great operator. In our business, hostels, PGs, co-living, uh, the uh, the the customer stays for a while, whether it's 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. So you don't walk out every day. So we decided to become a full stack player, and that was one of the best and the toughest decision we took at that point of time. Because at that time, full stack was not the flavor of any venture funded company.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah. The basic VC funda is asset light, and
yeah, yeah.
like,
I mean, we were technically very asset light. Like our
but
expense on
low touch
running
asset
the
light, high tech. Like that's typically the.
yeah. So yeah, low touch was the main mantra. That do something which is much wider and low touch, more aggregation sorts on the side. Uh, and any amount of burn on that side was okay. But even 2 rupees this side was like, what is your OC, what is your ROE, and all that stuff. So, so that was a very different sort of way of thinking at that point of time. So we struggled, like we really struggled to raise our first Series A after seed. Like we really struggled. We almost came close to bankruptcy twice. Uh,
Wow.
that was
What
quite
were
a
your
tough
costs?
run-in.
I mean, one would be cost of your corporate employees, but you also had these rental incomes, rental costs. Like you would have taken some long-term rental agreements and then given it out. Like there must have been. I think essentially the business model here is pay 100 rupees rent for one set of building with X number of rooms, and then rent out each room in such a way that the 100 you're paying, you get back 200 individually, and that margin in between is what you use to cover your operating costs, customer
Yeah,
acquisition costs,
yeah,
etc.
yeah, roughly sort of that's the play.
Mm.
Uh, but our centers were making money, so they didn't need money to be supported.
Okay.
We needed money to grow and invest, as well as in the team, as well as more centers.
Mm.
So our
And
centers
customer
were making money
acquisition.
that way. Customer acquisition also from like last 10 years, our cost is very reasonable here. So
Okay.
including CAC, our centers CAC loaded, they were making money then. They are making money now. We've never lost money at a contribution level,
Okay.
even during COVID for that matter. During
Okay.
COVID also, we were
Okay.
able to sort of work with our asset partners and get everything in a way that we didn't lose money at a contribution margin level at center.
Mm.
But you need to grow the business, right? I mean,
Right.
you can't just uh, keep sitting
The
that,
corporate
okay, I have to,
team,
yeah,
tech
corporate
cost.
team, tech cost. You can't just
Mm.
keep sitting that I'll run three centers because they're profitable. Uh, that's was never the plan. That will never be the plan. So it was a very tough 1 year, very tough 1 year. Uh, and eventually, I think Nexus only realized that, okay, look, these guys are good. They can do some good work. Let's just give them a small Series A. So that's how our
Okay.
Series A journey
Okay.
started after 1 year.
Was there some data point which changed their mind? Like, what
We
changed
were
their
growing
minds?
consistently. We were profitable, not at a EBITDA level, but always at center level. Minor loss at EBITDA level. We could clearly see the market size, that there's large market to be built here.
And
Uh,
high retention rates. I guess here retention is an important factor to evaluate.
Not really in our business, because we don't have just employees. We also have a lot of transitionary customers.
Uh,
In fact, now to our properties also operate a lot on daily stays as well. Because of recent GST changes, we've been classified as hospitality. So we pay same tax as hotels pay now,
okay.
indirect taxes, and same structure, more or less. So in properties where we pay direct hotel structure tax, so in some sense we have the license to also accommodate on and off some daily stays as well, wherever we
Okay.
have fringe occupancy.
Okay.
So, but yeah, I mean, when we started, yes, at that point you can say that thesis could have been built that way. But these businesses are truly businesses of sweating assets. Whether you sweat it via retention, whether you sweat it via diversification, fundamentally you have an asset. Like you said, you are paying 100, you got to make 200, and if you can make 250, nothing like it.
Okay.
So whether you make this through retention or you make this through magic, I don't think anyone cares.
Right. 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 Okay. Okay. Understood. Understood. Okay. So Nexus gave you a Series A, and by that time you had three centers in all three in Bangalore. Like,
Yeah, we were just in Bangalore then.
okay. So after that Series A, then what happened?
Then we started Pune first. Then came Chennai. Then came Hyderabad. Now we're
Why
in
not
15 cities, so I'll not
continue to
list down all
double
of them.
down on Bangalore only? Like, because you probably need an ops team, right? Like, say, maintenance
Yeah, yeah.
guys, AC not working, whatever, and you probably need some sort of. I mean, it's a team. You need an on-ground team, so it would make sense to have density.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So we went wise then. That's all the answer is.
Okay, thank you for being so candid.
Yeah. We
Okay.
should have built Bangalore much deeper and then moved to something else.
Okay.
But dunya hai,
Uh,
people sort of, everyone asks, are you a national player? Are you a local player? And, and entrepreneurs are humans, they are. They're just
yeah.
mere
Yeah.
mortals who have
Yeah.
those petty emotions of Sometimes your that side gets takes the better of you. Uh,
Right. Okay.
but if I were to now do it again, I will first make sure I am God in Bangalore, then I'll touch anything else.
Mm, mm, mm,
Uh,
mm, mm, mm,
uh, but yeah, things, time, situations, maturity, that's
mm,
fine.
mm. Okay. Okay. Just continue the journey. So you went into multiple cities, and I guess you did a big Series B around 2019. So by that time, how many centers? What kind of ARR were you at? Do you remember?
Uh, don't remember a lot around ARR. I think we were at 120 crore run rate or something like
Hmm.
that.
Okay.
120, 130 crore run rate or more.
Okay.
Uh,
And
so we had a fairly large Series B of that time, the largest in co-living, and at that time at least,
the
and
30 million.
one of the largest of those times as well.
Mm, mm,
So uh, yeah, I mean, after Series A, life became relatively better because we had some capital to deploy. We could show our numbers. Payback periods were making sense. Growth was making a lot of sense. We were growing 250% year on year. So most of the things were sort of falling in line. Series B happened well. Then we expanded even more aggressively. Uh, in fact, till COVID came, life was like really, really on an upward run. And then in, I think, few moments when Modi ji announced, अब कोई घर
mm,
से बाहर नहीं निकलेगा,
mm, mm,
suddenly uh, life came down. No, life didn't come down crashing. I don't think life has ever come down crashing. I have always remained a optimistic sort of a person no matter what the situation is, because I believe that the only choice I truly have is how I react to the situations, uh, not what situations are. I can't control the world, but I can control how I react to it. For life as such never went bad. uh, Life was good only always, but business really took a beating. Business
mm.
really
How much runway did you have when COVID hit?
I think that time we had 10, 12 months runway, but our investors were kind enough to do another Series C during the COVID period. So that gave us a very, very long runway. Uh,
Yeah, I was surprised about that. You did a $56 million Series C,
yeah,
which
yeah, yeah.
is a massive, massive Series C for a company that is so badly hit by COVID. I mean, for a sector that is so badly hit by COVID. Uh,
Luckily, by then we were not hit actually,
okay.
because the first lockdown was so sudden. People preferred to stay in Zolo because our standards of cleaning, etc., were way better than the near-term world or the surrounding world. So people were staying with us. Our revenues didn't take hit in the first lockdown, very limited hit. It was the second lockdown where we got really hit, and the hope at that point was that it will not go beyond like 3 months, 6 months, 8 months sort of a period. No one knew that it's gonna go till 2.5 years or something. Companies are going to announce things like work from home is my primary motto of life, and no one anticipated any of that. So our investors' thesis was also that look, and when we were doing really steady in our revenue, we hadn't taken any hit by then. So it was like that. Okay, in few months, life should be back, and Zolo is doing a phenomenal job in terms of growth and phenomenal job in terms of retention also in some sense, because the revenues are not hit. People are paying money. In fact, during second lockdown, also a lot of customers paid money just to block their bed. But when it sort of kept dragging, that point, everyone like said that, dude, this ain't ending anytime soon. And that's where I think the real down hit started for Zolo, not really at the start of COVID, but couple of months, like 7, 9 months after COVID. That
Basically,
was
when
the
people were talking of the new normal as being work from home, like remote
yeah,
as the
yeah,
new
yeah.
normal, people started talking of that the new normal is remote work. That's when
Yes,
people
yes,
would have
yes.
decided to give up their accommodation in cities, go back to hometowns.
Right. So, and that also, I used to always say that, look, this is stupidity. Uh, there is no new normal called remote. You cannot build organizations remotely. Because in the end, what's an organization? It's just bunch of people who believe in something common, who agree to a certain modus operandi of operations, which works for them, who trust each other. That look, I got your back, I got your back, you got my back. Uh, People who sort of are motivated by a common cause. So by setting everyone remote, you can't do any of that. Then to everyone is just a transaction agent. Everyone is a freelancer. You give me 20 bucks more, I'll move out. I'll move to some other. And that's what we are seeing, and we saw also drastically where the attrition rates were through the roof. Because look, if I am like Ethan Hunt, this packet will self-destruct itself in 20 seconds. If I am operating on packets of information, I can't connect to the cause. I can't connect to people. It doesn't really matter. My ecosystem, my lifestyle doesn't change if I open the packet from an X company versus a Y company or a Z company. My lifestyle is more or less the same. My lifestyle is dependent on my society, my friends, my nearby, and it's very limited contribution via organization. So I was always, I mean, I would have done hundreds of webinars at that point of time as speaker, but in majority, I would say that, and generally people used to say, "Sir, you have vested interest to say that," and I was like, "True that. I have vested interests, but I am really not coming from that place. I am really coming from foundational blocks of building an organization. I'm really coming from logic. I'm really coming from culture. Uh, that if you, I mean, as a small startup, 10, 20, 30 people, remote can work magically. You guys can meet on and off and etc. etc. 15 people, I guess. There is a use case for remote as well. I'm not saying there is no use case for remote. I'm talking about organizations who have 150,000 people, 200,000 people,
Yeah,
30,000 people, 20,000 people.
right.
So I'm not saying there is no use case for remote. Even then, I had the same standard. Look, if you're a 10, 20 member organization, maybe you can manage remote easily. You can all come on one con call and all share your joys and sorrows. But do you really think you can bring 500 people on one con call and share joys and sorrows? One business leader to whom there are like 1,000 people indirectly reporting. You need a town hall. You need that in person pieces, and it's impossible and impractical to keep flying people on and off to meet each other. It just doesn't make sense. And as I said, and the most important thing, what are you really connecting to? You're not connecting to anything other than a packet of work.
Yeah. True,
And
true, true.
I haven't seen anybody doing great work or any company doing great work if people can't really connect to some cause, even if the cause is not philosophical. Like sometimes some people have philosophical causes, like Steve Jobs. I will change the status quo. I will change the way world operates. It's a very philosophical sort of a cause, really not financial cause. But some causes can be very financial also. Dhirubhai Ambani, very financial cause. Dhanda banana hai hame. And people were there with him. He didn't do it alone. Uh, and his, in some sense, vision used to be that if an Indian spend 1 rupee, 10 paisa will be via Reliance. I will be so pervasive in the lives of an Indian. So it's sort of coming from a very financial direction,
Right,
but
right,
still a
right.
very beautiful vision and a cause. I'm
It
not
is. It is.
putting
I was
one
not aware
superior
of
over,
this.
so I'm not putting one superior over other. That Steve Jobs is better than Dhirubhai Ambani. If anything, I probably prefer Dhirubhai Ambani's vision over Steve Jobs. Uh, so, but there has to be a cause to sort of align, uh, and that cause requires a certain amount of proximity, certain amount of spontaneity. Uh, I can't do a water cooler conversation on a Zoom call.
Yeah. True,
So,
true, true. But okay, so coming
anyway,
back
that's
to
different. Yeah.
when after the 7, 8, 9 month period of lockdown, when it was like wave two and new normal and all. So, how much did your revenue fall by, and how long did it take to recover?
We have. Then we went down to like 30% of our previous revenues after
Okay.
1.5 year roughly.
Okay.
And it took another 2.5 years to recover.
Wow.
So roughly you can say 4 years of sort of wipeout. Uh, which is all right. I mean, no grudges, like I said. Uh,
So
and
you must have, the behavior of an entrepreneur when things are going bad is typically to try a lot of things. What were the things that you tried? You must have done more experiments in that time when revenue is falling. I think when things are going well, you tend to experiment less. When things are going bad, you do more experiments. Some of them scale up, some don't. But tell me about that whole period of how that transformed Zolo and you as a founder.
yeah, yeah. So in fact, that's exactly where I was in some sense naturally also going. Thanks for a nice articulated segue. So we accelerated our vision in terms of what we had always sort of thought. So and our vision statement after a couple of months in the beginning was never to be just a co-living player or PG segment. We were building our operating system tech as well as ops in a way that we can handle any kind of living space. Any kind means any kind, whether it's a hotel, whether it's hostels, whether it's student hostels in outside campus, inside campus, whether it's a society, whether it's a army barrack. You give me a living space and we can manage. So that was always our vision to sort of operate on. So we accelerated certain pieces of that vision. We started working with campuses, student housing, to manage different campuses. With God's grace, we have now 30,000 plus students on that side, who we manage as
And
on-campus hostel
this is
management.
like a per room, per square feet, per person. How do you price this service?
Per person. It's like a SaaS. It's like per user,
Okay.
active user. If there is a person staying in the hostel, you pay me. If not, you don't pay me.
Oh, and how deep is your service? Does it also include managing the cleaners, or is it like an
Everything.
app
It's
through
a
which?
turnkey solution. No, no, it's a turnkey
Okay.
solution. It's tech
So
plus
you will
ops.
hire cleaners and janitors and like
Yeah,
maintenance
yeah.
people. Okay.
So
Okay.
operating system remains same. So operating
Mm,
system is the
mm,
same in co-living.
mm,
So we hire
mm,
people here also. We hire people
mm.
there also. Hire slash you have agencies. That's a different question. But we are
Yeah.
accountable for that.
Okay.
Uh, so
But
we hire
with a
slash.
hostel, what are you charging per person then? I mean, because uh, normally a hostel would have had the person running the hostel, like say a college has a hostel with it, they would have had to bear those costs irrespective of utilization. Um, why are you giving them that optionality that if your utilization is low, then you're paying lower to me?
That's fine. I mean, that's just a way of finding a model, right? You can put it more when the time there is utilization. That's just financial modeling. Uh, it just keeps the business cleaner, deal
Okay.
cleaner. So
Okay.
just financial modeling. I mean, I'm not doing
Okay.
any charity on anyone. There is no largesse here.
Mm.
It's just a financial modeling. You load a little bit before so that you know that when you have lesser occupancies, you have some fixed costs which will be covered. So
Okay.
it's prima facie a way of modeling. Nothing,
Mm.
no largesse here.
Okay.
Uh, I mean, the model really scaled up because it's a win-win for everyone. Whatever minor increment we charge to the college, the student is more than happy to pay way more in some sense, because it's like somebody who's not an expert at something does X quality. Somebody who's an expert uses the same raw materials and cost, like a sculptor. So you will use the same kind of clay, same tools, but the outcome is going to be very different. It's just
Yeah.
that the expert artist might use a little more time, so it's slightly more expensive as such, but
Mm.
the outcome is drastically different.
Mm.
So, with a slight increase in cost, most colleges found a drastic increase in value to the students. And students were also more than happy to compensate for that. So, college wins because they get hassle free management and they
Mm.
get happy student. Also, sometimes they get slightly extra, also more than over and above Zola's fee by the student, because student is really happy. Yeah, look, if in 10,000 bucks you were giving me, let's say, some Xiaomi or something, some Android comparison, let's say, and in 12,000 bucks you are giving me an iPhone. Wow, I mean, charge me 13 also, I don't care.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
There's
not trying to
some
put down
margin
Xiaomi, just
possibility. Yeah, yeah, no, I
yeah,
understand.
just to sort of
Yeah,
put in
yeah.
context,
Mm,
not saying
mm,
Xiaomi is bad. I had to just pick
mm,
two known
mm,
brands. As an entrepreneur, one thing you realize is that building businesses is very difficult, dude. So
Yeah, true, true,
whether
true.
someone has
It's
built a
easy
whatever
to dish from
not
a
sexy
distance.
brand, if it's not Apple, doesn't mean it's not great.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
It
True,
is a
true, true,
great
true.
business. So
Yeah,
all
yeah,
kudos to
yeah.
Xiaomi. I really didn't mean any
Uh,
disrespect to them.
yeah. Okay. And like you give some sort of an app to students where what does your app do? You would have some sort of a resident app, right? For
Yeah,
each
yeah.
a
So we
student
have
create your own.
two apps. One is a resident property app, sort of life cycle management app, and
Hmm,
second is a community app. We are the
hmm.
perhaps only company in the entire, I think, as far as we've done the survey across the globe, which has a separate community management app. So we have a gamification app in community where whatever you do for the community, in the community, with the community, like if you attend something, participate something, facilitate something, you have XPs, gems, and then you can attack each other. You can send your armies raids. So it's like a fun game, like a really
Wow.
fun game.
Okay.
And then lifecycle management app, obviously, where housekeeping, repairs, maintenance, fee, exit, entry, onboarding tickets, feedback. So all that happens. Laundry, entry, exit, passes. So that's a lifecycle management app.
Okay. So, I think that the difference between a WeWork and other co-working spaces was their uh, community angle. Like they would position themselves as "come join your tribe, tribe of builders and doers," and they had
Mhm.
that cool community kind of a positioning and parties and beer on tap kind of a stuff and all. So, is this like a play that you have also seen working for Zolo? And if yes, then how do you build community as a moat? And is it a moat for Zolo? Like two questions combined, I'm asking you.
So I'll say yes and no both.
Hmm.
Yes for a student housing business, no for co-living business.
Okay.
For co-living business, the key moat or value proposition to the customer is flexibility, that you can come for a day, come for a month, come for a quarter, come for a year. And all options are available. You have different packages. You can choose from whichever you want. So for co-living, it is a quality hospitality, that you get a good place, clean, neat, hygienic, basic promises met, and plus you get flexibility. But in student housing, community is a very big moat. It's a structural difference, not really to do with Zolo's capability, but to do more with the audience you're dealing with. For a community to be built, the audience ought to sort of connect with each other, should have a little steadier outlook to the life, should somehow be able to relate to that place per se. So for a co-living business, I wouldn't say community is a very big moat, because this is a transitionary audience. Very few people sort of come to us thinking I'll stay here 5 years.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah. True.
uh, and jobs anyway, I don't know if people are even sticking to jobs for, as far as Randstad survey, 70% of the folks are changing their jobs within 16 months
Okay.
at early career. So that because of its transitionary nature, so community by design sort of becomes a little difficult proposition. But for uh, student housing business, community is a very big value prop, and we can see the difference also in terms of wherever we are operating. The differences are quite massive compared to
And
pre-zone.
how do you do the community part? I mean, one is community is organic because they are in the same campus, right? Uh, Beyond that, what is it that you are doing to kind of enable it?
So we are a catalyst. So I can't, as I said, I can't force a community. So there are some structural fundamental aspects of a community. Always one, there is us versus others. There is a common sense of identity. So I can't force a community on people. But if there are these fundamental structural elements available, we can really catalyze that. So what we do in student housing is catalyze that community. So we have a micro cohort playbook, macro cohort playbook.
What are
Uh,
these? Just can you zoom in a bit?
so in micro cohort playbook, so first of all, there's a platform, then comes playbook. So like I talked about the app. where every student is some sense a player. So everything you do is like a game. If you are a player in a cricket tournament, so then you get X amount of point. If you're audience also, you can go and do a QR code scan and get some audience points. And all these points, gems, XPs, they have their own meaning, value, leaderboards, victories, quest leaderboards. We can do
And
things very easily like IPL inside a campus. That tech allows us
okay.
to do very
Hmm.
nice premier leagues, so you can sort of have players buy, sell, see dashboards. So you can do a lot of things, incite or ignite a competitive spirit, ignite a passion spirit. So in that micro cohort playbook, what I was talking about, we do a lot of these small things such as social causes, plantation, small things which a lot of people aren't interested, hieroglyphics, literary quizzes. So we enable all that very seamlessly, because not a lot of times students have so much of energy and bandwidth to sort of do all this. So there are some colleges which are which have a vibrant community going in themselves. So there also, I think, if where we have gone, we have been able to take it up the notch. And in some where there was no vibrant community, we've been able to build a lot, especially around three things. One is sports. So with a lot of tournaments, a lot of excitement, a lot of visibility. Two is health and mental wellness, and I think this is a very important piece in today's world, uh, with basic problems of roti kapda makan being solved for everyone. Now we are all struggling for meaning, and I think it's true for you, true for me, true for big part of our generation, that the forced purpose which previous generation had. I'm saying forced purpose. I'm not saying they were so wise to choose purposes. There was a forced purpose of roti kapda makan, for viewers who are not very comfortable with Hindi, basic food and amenities or housing. Uh, so that sort of kept them sane. Like sometimes I think that if I had a challenge of just housing or food and shelter for my kids, right? If I come to work and somebody were to beat me with sticks, like literally
Yeah.
beat me with sticks,
Yeah. Yeah.
I will take it. I will take it so happily without complaining, because I know this is what puts food on table for my family. And if I don't take this, they will not have food. And for my kids, I can like die. So this is a very tiny sacrifice to make to get beaten every day. Uh, but now
But
that I know, but look, that's not a problem. Then I need to find a purpose. Uh,
how are you doing this for a college student? Like, are you helping them find their purpose through,
No, no,
like,
no.
then
That's a
what?
very tough
What
one.
is
So we
okay?
are trying to solve for basic foundational things, hoping that this will help them in finding their purpose, or at
Give
least
me an example.
bringing a.
Like what?
So we generally go do meditation clubs, yoga,
Okay.
zumbas.
Okay.
So
Hmm.
there are
Wellness
hacks to
activities. Right.
there are hacks to wellness also.
Hmm.
It's one is a philosophical mental alignment, which is from purpose standpoint.
Hmm.
That accentuates the problem of mental wellness, but that is something that is hard for us to solve. But
Hmm.
what we can do is we can solve for more tactical and strategic elements.
Hmm.
That if there are a lot of people regularly taking participation in meditation, if there are a lot of people who are regularly coming for morning yoga classes, that keeps you more stronger. It is not solving for the philosophical issue. That's a
These
whole different thing.
events, classes, tournaments, are they student driven? Like a student will create an event and then tell people, hey, I've created this event? Or do you have like a community manager who is seeding the events and
The
finding
latter.
trainers for meditation?
The
Okay.
latter. So we will take care of all the logistics.
Hmm.
Students have to participate, and for participation also they have a lot of fun. Like I said, gems and XPs,
Yeah.
which they get, and then those gems and XPs also have a lot of competitive play in that. Like I said, you have options of raiding battles against each other. You can send your armies, which
Hmm.
can go and loot XPs from other people, and
Hmm.
then there are potions, there are weapons. So
Hmm.
there's a lot of strategy involved in winning the Zo tribe game. So we call that
Oh,
app Zo
nice.
tribe.
Okay.
So there are a lot of strategies
Nice.
involved in winning the Zo tribe game other than just participation.
Yeah, got it,
Participation
got
is
it, got
one of the key elements of amassing, but amassing doesn't mean protecting. So you have to use a lot of
it.
strategies
Nice, nice, nice,
to sort
nice.
of
Okay.
protect that
So
piece in your
you said
and your place on
micro
leaderboard.
cohorts, macro cohorts. So this is micro cohorts is like sports tournaments,
The
meditation.
sports
What
will fall
is?
under macro cohort. Micro
Okay.
cohort is hieroglyphics, let's say social plantations,
Okay, 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 okay.
movies, some specific movie screening, literary quizzes,
And what
which
used to be clubs,
hiking.
like colleges used to have these clubs. So that is
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of
So that's the
uh,
same thesis. Look, we're not
right.
reinventing the wheel. I
Yeah,
am not
you're
claiming
digitizing
that
it.
we are catalyzing it via digitization and logistical support.
Hmm. Okay.
So we are catalyzing it. Digitization is one of the pillars, and another big pillar is logistical support.
Hmm.
Because not necessarily every campus has enough number of folks who
Hmm.
are willing to take the logistical hassles.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah. True, true, true.
it doesn't sort of happen automatically. There is somebody who has to spend weeks and weeks for one thing to happen.
Hmm.
uh, and if you have enough bunch of those folks, great. But
Hmm.
it's not true, and I can bet whatever we have now surveyed campuses, it's not true for 90% of the campuses.
Hmm.
uh,
Yeah, yeah,
because it
yeah.
requires a very high level of motivation amongst students, dedication to passions, dedication to cause. Not necessary you get that everywhere.
Hmm. Okay.
So these are the
So
two pillars of community.
let's zoom out a bit. So you one experiment you did was student housing, and then you have your core business of PG or co-living, which is anyway continuing. Uh, what else is also there? Things which resulted from the experiments.
So we then figured out that look, going forward, we want to build very high quality assets. Build is a wrong word. We want to operate on very high quality assets, and high quality assets require very high investments, which is not available with single individuals. And real estate developers are not getting into the game because it's not their business to hold assets. Their business is to sell assets, residential especially. So we created another sort of vertical which helps real estate developers to build assets which will be used for co-living, but eventually sold, not eventually, but sold to retail investors. So it became a very
Okay.
beautiful game. Like if let's say, and I think you are my typical client in some sense, somebody who is not very comfortable with owning a lot of real estate because that person finds it hassled and doesn't know who to rent it out and all that noise. So for you, I will come and tell you that come, I have a asset which Zolo will lease, and you don't need to worry about any kind of tenant hassles, repairs, maintenance, nothing. You have a very good long-term security on rental. We have assurance service for you, uh, and for developer, it is basically the flat sold or apartment or studio sold. So everybody wins. You get
Yes.
to
Yeah.
participate in a very nice residential real estate appreciation story as well as a much higher rental than the market. Developer gets to sell, Zolo gets a high class asset. So that became a beautiful game, is now growing very aggressively. So that worked out well, where we got our second piece of supply strategy sorted. So this was our second supply strategy. We
How
got
much
that
of your
sorted.
supply comes from this? The
As of now, it's because it takes time to build, 2 to 3 years to build all these. So today, I would say it's a very small percentage. But if you roll the clocks just 2 years, 1.5 year from here, it will be a fairly decent percentage because a lot of these assets will start coming live.
right, because they are under construction today. You would be talking
Yeah,
to
yeah,
developers when it's under construction.
yeah. Yeah,
Do you also?
greenfield at land level.
Okay. Oh, at land level. So you would also do some sort of a recommended design architecturally to optimize it for
Yeah,
co-living.
yeah. So we have a bunch of suite of services for developers. Design is one of them, and selling that to retail investors, a platform to sell is one of them.
So how what is the architectural difference in the way the apartment complex is designed if it is designed for
So
co-living?
these are fungible apartments, so they can operate as co-living. Let's say, let's take an example of one BHK that Zolo will build, or Zolo is the wrong word, but we will recommend the design on. So till the time co-living operates, it has 2 rooms and a small kitchenette. if tomorrow, God forbid, co-living is not viable at that location or not worthy, then you can just take out one room that will become a very large kitchen. So you have a very nice, beautiful 1 BHK, which is like a standard inventory.
Okay.
So you remove one wall. That wall is a non-load bearing wall. So you
Ah,
remove that
okay.
wall, which is removable.
And
It
becomes
will
a
cost you
studio
very little,
apartment.
and it
Right.
becomes a 1 BHK. Till the time
Okay.
co-living is happening, it is basically like a 2 BH with a small K,
Pantry, like a pantry.
with a nice pantry and dry kitchen. When you make it a 1 BHK, it's a full-fledged, large family-size kitchen where you can, like, as a family live.
Okay.
So we've sort of because look, assets are forever.
Yeah.
Models can come and go. So we wanted to make sure that none of our investors ever feel that, oh shit, I made a mistake of buying a co-living asset. You're technically buying both,
Yeah.
co-living till co-living, and when the way we see it, it will go forever. But you have to cover the risk for someone who is buying an asset. So
Yeah.
these are fungible designs that we sort of recommend and build on. Uh, or these are small studios which will be the future inventory. The way real estate is becoming expensive and expensive and expensive, I think 15 years down the line, majority of single couples, I mean, no kids couples will be living uh, in studios only, because it won't make a lot of sense to take expensive houses. And I don't foresee so much of infrastructure getting built that you can stay 20 kilometers from the city or 40 kilometers from the city. So you will have to stay inside the city, and the space in the city is so limited that we will go down the path of studios. So either we make studios or fungible designs, which can sort of act as any kind of inventory.
Okay. Okay. What else in terms of experiments? I guess you also mentioned one of the day, like the hotel business, overnight
Yeah,
stays.
yeah. That was like desperate opportunity bet we took. It worked out very
Okay.
well. We
Okay.
have two high-end business hotels which do really well. One we have in Mumbai and one we have in Bangalore. But that's not has become our mainstream business yet. Uh,
So those are like pure hotels, or are they like co-living in which some rooms are hotels?
These are pure hotels, and co-living
Okay.
is also okay in that, but their decor, their style, everything is done like hotel. But as I said, this is more opportunistic play. That doesn't define Zolo per se. They happen to be really doing really well. That's just a whole different thing. But one of the key pieces that we have launched in hospitality is the vacations, which is for resorts. uh, so that's started to pick up really well. We have three live and 15 more coming live in next 60 days.
So
Uh,
this is like a you rent the resort and then you rent it out further. That same model, like the
Management
100.
contract. No, no,
Like,
no. These are
okay,
management contracts.
management contracts. Okay, okay.
Because hospitality fundamentally operates on management contracts, and hospitality is not as predictable a business as co-living is. So
Yes.
you really can't know that this year I will get these many tourists. Uh, so in leisure hospitality, it's generally the standard model of operations for anyone is management contracts, or revenue share. You can call it whichever way makes more sense to people, you and the audience. Uh, and there we are seeing a very good uptick because country needs a good Airbnb manager. In globally, there are a lot of great businesses built on being an Airbnb manager or leisure hospitality manager. We have a lot of demand aggregators in this space. We have very few good managers. Uh, so our what the gap that we are filling there, like I told, like we have a operating capability and a tech capability. So that's our key strength. So we have taken that key strength to this place. Demand comes via OTAs and via agents and multiple. There are multiple channels for demand. So we are not claiming a demand power on this side. We are claiming a management power, and that's picking up really well, and people are appreciating that there is a need for a great Airbnb manager of sorts, and that business is also picking up well as a mainstream business.
And what kind
Hotel
of
business.
resorts are these? Like
So ranging
up to 10
from
rooms
five
or like
rooms, No, 5 to 50. We have all kinds.
Okay. Okay. And do you also manage their listings and the whole process, or just the operations of running
Everything
the place?
turnkey.
Okay.
So we
So you are
build
in a way
turnkey
like a
solutions.
supply aggregator now, in a way. Like,
Yeah, if that makes sense. So, I mean, I call it managers because I will manage the entire space, including demand. But if supply aggregation makes more sense, I think it's just semantics in that sense.
interesting, interesting. This in itself is a large opportunity, right? I think there are a couple of unicorns in this space in Europe, and
Yeah,
who
yeah,
do this,
Europe and UK, yes.
like managing Airbnb properties. Like typically, when you go abroad, the owner has no role in it. There is some professional manager who's managing the property, even if it's a
Yep.
single room. Even for a single room, that is also typically managed.
Yes,
Uh,
yes. So there, it is a very large opportunity, and we are also finding it as quite a welcoming market. Uh, if you can pull off that much of ops, so uh,
yeah.
it's not an easy business, but a very large opportunity.
How do you scale operational excellence? Because this is a, I mean, the scope of doing something wrong uh, is not really like, say, if you're a manufacturer, you always have a quality check process later on to make sure nothing wrong is going out to your customer. But this is a different kind of ops where if something is going wrong, you will immediately get escalation. Um, so just tell me about your learnings of building strong operational capability. How have you built that capability over the years? What metrics do you track for this? What is the way in which you've created the org chart to enable operational excellence?
So I will change the lens a little bit of looking at it. Uh, the one of the key things here is hiring and training. Where do you hire? Who do you hire? How do you hire? How do you train them? How do you groom them? Then incentive structures. Uh, then your ability to monitor, measure, closing the loop with the customer as far as feedback is concerned. That's where tech plays a very big role. Abstracting your SOPs into tech, because if you are sort of running from one SOP to another on paper or on something, it doesn't work. Abstracting the SOPs, using a lot of data and analytics to find patterns where things are going wrong, how things are going wrong. But what you said is, it remains true that, look, I cannot immediately control what went to the customer, uh, but I can sort of make sure my patterns are in line through the use of data and a lot of analytics and a lot of processes and real-time monitoring of those processes. Like we have a sort of a monitoring center for onboardings. So every day there are people monitoring 500 onboarding pictures. That room is ready, room is ready, room is ready.
Onboarding means
So
when a customer is
new
taking
customer
his room.
comes.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah, yeah.
got it. Mhm.
So you abstractize a lot of your SOPs and real-time monitoring via tech, convert it into data that you can sort of find patterns, trends, errors, issues, close the loop with the customer in terms of feedback, then iterate, repeat. So it is obviously a relatively, it is not an easy thing to build. That's the good and bad of it. The bad is that it takes time. The good is that once built, you can't just disrupt. Like tomorrow, if somebody funds another organization with some 50 $100 million, which did happen to one of the competitors got some $150 million, and then that doesn't mean that they can come and just take away your business. It just doesn't work that way. It's a the pro and the con is the same. The pro is, or the con is, that it's a tough thing to build. The con is, once built, it's really hard to replicate. The nuance and the depth of replication is so high that it's really, really hard to replicate.
Okay. Give me examples of the analytics part of it. You said analytics can help here. Give me an example. Like,
For example, you have NPS analytics, which customer cohort is going lower, which is going higher, why, what are the key parameters, which properties have taken a hit on NPS, is it because of staff or is it because of some infrastructural issues, which part of the journey, like we take feedback at the time of onboarding, at the time of when we do housekeeping, then also there is a feedback triggered when there is R&M tickets. So all this information sort of helps you understand where things are going wrong and how to fix them in the fastest possible way.
Okay, whether
uh,
it's a people problem or a process problem or an infrastructure problem, you're
yeah,
able to
yeah,
identify.
at a very highest level, yes. I mean,
Hmm,
there
hmm,
is
hmm,
a good amount of depth in that also. It helps in forecasting. Where is this month going to land? Why is this month going to land? So it sort of helps you get a grip on the business in various shapes and forms. We are not a big data company, so it's not that we are dealing with billions of rows and our job is to find cohorts. Rather, we are in some sense a small data company, that you have to find those small places uh, which are going wrong for the customer and go and fix those small places.
hmm,
Because experiences are about small things, not about big things. Big
hmm,
things a lot of people can get right.
hmm.
Small things are where rubber meets the road in terms of, or
Yeah, true.
men are
So
separated
true.
from boys.
This abstraction of SOPs into like a digitized workflow, did you lead that personally or like how did you build that? Because that sounds like a
Yes,
real moat.
for the most part, personally, for reasons which are not to do with that it's a real moat, reasons to do with that we took a very counterintuitive call a couple of years back. Uh, we removed product from our organization,
Okay.
product team. So what
Right.
was happening was basically that business will talk to product, product will talk to tech, tech will talk to product, product will talk to business, business talk to product. And there were so many translations, so many interpretations of the same thing, that it was genuinely getting confusing and annoying for all parties involved. Product guy was feeling bad about it. Okay, look, I can't make a big decision or I can't change because business tends to veto me. Business saying, look, dude, I tell 10 features, this guy's only 4 can happen. Tech is saying, unless you give me a PRD, I'm not moving. So engineers are not very happy because they're not really getting a challenge, they're getting PRDs.
Yeah.
So we took a bold call of saying, let business directly deal with tech.
Okay.
So let all the engineers directly go face the problem statement. So
Hmm,
you're smart people. Most of the engineers, computer science, and especially who we hire, we believe are very smart people, and they enjoy good problems. Business also started understanding and appreciating the challenges that tech has. They have a certain sprint, a certain schedule. You can't just wake up one day and say, by tomorrow, give me this. So the conversations became more meaningful, solutions became more meaningful. In that sense, till that rhythm became between business and tech, I had to play a very sort of bridging role. So in that process, while playing that bridging role, a lot of these things I had to personally oversee.
hmm. Interesting. What are some of your leadership principles? What is the headcount you manage today? Like overall
We
number.
have, I mean, property and non-property, we have 2,500 people roughly.
Okay. And what's your ARR today?
Roughly 400 crores.
Wow. So, I'd love to learn your leadership principles. How do you manage such a large, like 2,500 people, mix of blue collar, gray collar, white collar? Like, how do you do that?
So in the screen, although it might be reversed, there is 16 principles of Zolo.
Yes, I can see that.
That
Yes.
yellow, I'm not sure if it's
Yeah.
readable or it's
I
reversed.
can see the text in it, but I can see 16 principles of Zolo. Yeah.
Yeah, so we have a cultural playbook that we give to every employee, and we expect them to follow that. In that, also, obviously, there are some which are more crucial and some which are not. Uh, but culture is a very ever changing item. Honestly, I'll rate myself 3 out of 10 as far as culture is concerned, because it's such a holy grail item. Uh, that once figured out, then skies or anything is the limit if you know how to build a replicable culture. But we do try, or we have taken some steps to build a sort of a culture which is scalable, which is understandable by people, where they know what is expected of them, or how to make decisions if no one's watching. What is it that will be awarded later or penalized later? How to sort of go about it. And sometimes I have also taken a lot of tough decisions when things are not going, or let's say if some leader is not, uh, like one leader I feel so bad about, uh, brilliant person, I love the person, but we had a very big cultural conflict on how to see Zolo's culture, and I had to sort of we had to part ways. Uh, so sometimes you have to take tough calls also for culture, uh, and that's I think this alone is a 5 or 2 hour podcast for some other time. Just how
Yeah,
to
true, true,
build
true,
culture
true.
and the challenges
Mm.
of culture, and the nuances and where it breaks and where it really. Uh, but yeah, it's really about displaying, rewarding, because what you reward becomes the culture. Displaying, rewarding, and sometimes holding it dear, so much so that you have to take hard calls. Uh, so that's I think is a very succinct 1 minute summary I can give. But as I said, if someday we get time again in life, let's do a 2 hour podcast just on culture.
And what does your org chart look like? Who reports directly to you? Is it functional? Is it like business unit? Or,
It's COO, CFO, CTO, CBO. These are the ones who report to me. Uh,
CBO is like
business.
head of revenue in a way, like sales. Who's
No, for us, CBO is our other founder, Sneha, which is more special projects and crisis management.
okay? Okay.
It's a founder, so it doesn't matter what's the title.
Hmm.
so,
Uh,
Sneha is prima facie for wherever we need a POC or wherever we need a crisis to be managed. So
hmm.
she works on that. And business heads or business verticals report to COO as a P&L function.
Okay.
So COO
And
manages the P&L.
business heads are what, like city wise, or like the say hotel has a separate business head, or like
So hotel will have a separate business head. So different verticals will have a separate business head.
so the PG business on its own has one single head. Like that head
One
would be
single
the
head, yes.
head handling the
Head of
maximum
co-living,
revenue.
yes.
Ah,
Yes. So
okay,
he handles so head of co-living, head of
okay.
student housing, then,
Hmm.
and then there are subheads of
Hmm.
each vertical. So then it goes there.
And how do you find these heads? Do you train them in house or do you hire from outside, or like what's the approach to?
We've done both, but our lesson is that training in-house is the best methodology, uh, because at some point uh, in business journeys, IQ stops mattering. Or rather, let's put it that way, that the pool that you will select people from, they all have good IQ.
Yeah, 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 yeah. True, 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 true.
Uh,
Hmm.
so then it stops mattering. I wouldn't say IQ
Hmm.
is meaningless.
Hmm.
Intellect has a very big
It's
role
not
to
a
play in.
differentiator. Yeah.
It's not a differentiator. What really starts differentiating a person's performance is whether they align to your working style, whether they believe in the modus operandi that you believe in, uh, whether they hold certain behavior traits as sacrosanct as you hold, whether they are hurt by some kind of mistakes like you are hurt by. So the modus operandi becomes a very big uh, factor, and that relation to modus operandi becomes a very big factor in someone's success. And we also see, right, somebody was a rock star in organization X, and organization Y like failed drastically, went to organization
Yeah.
Z again, became a rock star. The guy is the same, yeah. It's
Yeah,
not
yeah, 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 yeah.
a big
That
difference in
alignment
who the person.
is. Mm.
Alignment to the working styles, methodology. Some people like lot of creative freedom. Some people would rather be okay with less creative freedom but more bounded approach, so that they don't feel uncomfortable that what do I really do. So different people have a very different way of thinking about life, operating. And what we have finally concluded is that it's way better to groom people in house than to directly get very senior role from outside. Uh, Not that people outside are not smart and only Zolo has smart people. Maybe they are way smarter than what Zolo has. But it's just that it's a more safer approach in
Yeah.
terms of getting a misfit. And misfit at a very senior level can really hurt you, like really, really hurt
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. It comes into like a your story headline. CBO quit. Yeah.
That's the tiniest of the hit, yeah.
Uh,
PR hit is the tiniest of the hit. The world forgets it. And I mean, thanks to today's overflux of information to the world, nobody remembers these things beyond 5 minutes. So
uh,
PR hit is the least amount of it. Your internal systems, processes, teams, so many things get destabilized. Uh, that you it's not a very trivial loss, and to rebuild that leader's position, we can see it's a lot of months worth of exercise all over again.
yeah. Right. Uh,
So
I I found
that's
it
why I
interesting that you have like crisis management as a separate function, which your co-founder is responsible for. Why is that? Is it that there are a lot of like this sector is prone to crisis? Is that the reason
no
that you or
no, this is
what?
nothing to do with sectoral crisis. When I say crisis, I don't mean crisis which is more customer focused, more internal crisis. In the sense that you have a, it's not even a crisis, we call it crisis. Let's say, like, the first word I use defines more of a role. Crisis is like second. I said special projects first. So
Okay.
special projects defines more of a role, and sometimes crisis is a special project.
Okay.
So
Okay.
special
Okay.
projects defines more of a role, that let's say you want to, like, student housing, or you want to do something new, or you want to think about a new vertical, or you want to do a operational excellence piece on something. Because line and design is not a very common skill available in one person. uh,
Line and design. What does that mean?
like people who are good line managers, where they can manage your daily ops, daily stuff very well with
Something which
discipline,
is
with
already
data.
designed.
Yeah, which is already designed, is a very different sort of DNA versus somebody if you throw them and say you design this.
Okay.
uh,
That
so
0 to 1.
Sneha is more design. So she's sort of supposed to do a lot of special projects and
Okay.
push
Okay.
more
Understood.
design, and not the creative design. This is process design for the most
The
part.
0 to 1 basically for problem
Yeah, 0
solving.
to 1,
Yeah.
1 to 10. In some cases, it's 10 to 100 also. Like, there's a certain process which is struggling, which needs a deep dive. So that is, in some sense, crisis. Customer crisis is not a
Problem
different skill
solving
entirely.
basically. I understood.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
understood.
yeah.
So, what do you personally track? What metrics? What information? What? How do you invest your time? You have limited number of hours that you can give, and you
Yeah.
have to judiciously decide where to allocate your time. How do you do that?
So answer varies every month, every quarter, every year. There is a book by Ben Horowitz, Hard Things About Hard Things, where he says, as a CEO, you are the only guy who has the complete picture. Uh, so you ought to be really wise to know what exactly will work for my organization, when and how. And there are no best answers which are generic. There are no best answers, generic best answers. If somebody comes and says that this is how an organization is built, or if there was a book that you could follow, literally almost everyone would have a $1 billion startup.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
true. True. True.
so there are no best answers for your organization at this point of time. There are best answers. The thing is, there are 100 best answers. And your job is to know which is the best answer which will work today for my context, my scale, my issues, my org structure, my customer offering, my bank balance, my investor confidence, my future capital layout, my shareholders. So So thus, since it's such a multifactorial equation, answer changes a lot. Some months I have spent so much time on just design, visual design. Some months I have spent a good amount of time on product, just hardcore tech product. Which, when I say visual design, including the physical visual design and digital visual design. In
Okay.
some months, I have spent a lot of time just building processes, manuals, SOPs. Some months I have spent just doing reviews and reviews and reviews. So answer is not a very steady answer, and I have lived time with steady answers as well, and uh, I realized that not a great way to go with. You need to have a cadence of things. So there is certain cadence of some reviews, but that's 20% of my time, 20-30% of my time. Because without
So
cadence, the
what?
organization goes for a tizzy.
Right,
Uh,
right, right.
so there is a cadence of reviews, P&L reviews, demand reviews, ops reviews. So there is a cadence of reviews because without cadence, like what you don't measure, what you don't review, never gets improved or never gets moved.
Yes, yes, yes,
Uh,
yes.
but that's 30% of my time. 70 sort of varies quite aggressively.
What does Zolo need right now? Things that
Zulu,
are on your plate right now.
right now, I'm trying to bring a certain momentum on different how do you say initiatives that we have. Some are moving faster, some are moving slow. So trying to bring a certain momentum, bring in a more smoother org design. The org design that I told you is a very recent org design. Uh, Earlier, different verticals were reporting to different leaders, and there was a lot of noise, etc. So making sure that this new org design, which is much cleaner, much easier for anyone to absorb, like in a matter of minutes, in some sense, you got it. So how I had to stabilize that because with the new org design, there are new set of processes that ought to come into play, new way of looking at data reviews that ought to come into play. So my current priority is this, and second most priority is profitability. Actually, first is profitability. This is means to an end, and end is profitability in some
Right,
sense.
right, 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 right.
Uh,
Okay.
we were
How far are
profitable
you
last
from?
year. We actually became
Great.
profitable last year.
Amazing.
We spent 8 months out of 12 profitable. Then there was a change, like I told you. Like recently, we were classified into hospitality, a certain part of business at least. Uh,
Which
so
part? Like
then
the
there,
co-living business or what?
yeah,
Like,
yeah, 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 co-living
okay.
business.
So which
Uh,
means that you need to increase your prices by 18% or what is the
no, no, no. Roughly 7%.
7? So GST rate for
7
hospitality
to
is
12%. Yeah, yeah. And
7.
we've
Okay.
absorbed some hit and we've passed on some hit to the customer. So 12% was the
Okay.
total ask. We've absorbed
Okay.
some hit and we've passed on some hit. Uh,
Okay.
so now that you've absorbed some hit, that hit has to be covered via higher occupancy, some sort of pricing changes, etc., etc. So that brought us again to red. Now, with if God's kind, by next month or latest by next month, we'll back to green. So the
Before
goal is
this,
by
PG
next.
section had no GST in it.
The residential leasing part had no GST, services part had GST. Now all combined has GST.
Okay.
Uh,
So your contract would be split. Like if you're charging someone 10,000, of that, some part would be rental, which is leasing, and some part would be services. And the services part would have a tax on it.
in that case, also department is still okay. So that's a very nuanced conversation. I think we can spare the audience from
Right,
getting
right,
too
right, right.
technical about it, and doesn't have any abstract meaning into it. Uh, but we can probably someday, out of curiosity, discuss offline.
Yeah, sure, sure, sure. Understood, understood. Okay. What's the goal that you're chasing? So today you said you have 400 crore ARR, 2,500 head count. I think you said 16,000 people are living in spaces managed
Six
by
zero
you, right?
six zero 60.
60,000. Wow. Okay. So what's the goal that you're chasing? Do you have some milestone?
Uh, Goals keep changing, yeah, quite honestly. So I have a very high clarity on my 5 year play. I honestly
What is
don't know
that?
how
You
my
can share
6 year.
that. What's the 5 year play?
Yeah. So in 5 years, we would have more or less be known for the vision with which we started, that any living space is best managed by Zolo uh, in various shapes and formats. Uh, 6 months, I honestly don't know.
Yeah.
It's, I mean, ideally, I should have been there by now. Like when I think about what I had kept my goals as, I should have been there by now. But with this tizzy of macro changing so much, uh, it's gotten really hard to predict the macro. Uh, some months you feel like, oh, everybody's coming back, and then suddenly, no, 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 we're not coming back, and so at some places, so it's given the macro, it's really hard to say 6 months, but 5 years,
Macro
because the
is
5 years
macro includes taxation, or are you also talking of demand or like
taxation
urbanization
plus
and
demand, work from
return to
home, work from
office?
office,
Okay.
return to office,
Okay.
very unpredictable right now. Although taxation is sorted in some sense, but very unpredictable right now. So I know all of this will become sorted in a couple of months.
But
So
I thought
when that
that
will
return
happen,
to office question is answered, right? Like most companies are doing
for
return
IT
to office.
services, not yet. IT
Uh,
services still has very limited
hybrid. Okay.
occupancy.
Okay.
Because IT services, people are still taking a hard line that if you call us back, we are not coming back.
Uh,
Uh,
that struggle is still going on. Okay. Okay. Okay.
Mostly IT services. Majority of rest of the world, whether it's BFSI, IT product, startups, and everything is sort of back to office. IT services is still somewhere in the middle. And it's become more of a financial issue than work from office issue, because big city living is expensive, and people are like, look,
Right.
if you want to call us, we would rather have higher packages, or we are living our life well here. I don't know exactly, to be honest, but these are what I've heard from our customers. And so that's one segment which is yet to sort of pick up well, which the signs are very positive. So most of the companies have sort of, you would have heard that has made it mandatory, if you want appraisals or promotions, you have to come
Yes.
back.
Yes. 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 Yes.
So all the signs are positive. So it's just a matter of few months or quarters at best, I guess. Uh, but but yeah, again, there is uncertainty. Maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't happen. So
Do you see tier two also contributing, or you think tier two is not really a relevant market for solo?
no, because it's a urban migration phenomenon. Tier two is already a great vertical for. So Zolo doesn't have one customer anymore, so it's hard to sort of speak of Zolo as just
Right.
one
Right. Right.
customer. So for a co-living,
Co-living
it's a urban
tier
migration
one. Okay.
phenomena. Student housing is actually lot of tier two. We are present in Trichy and Karur.
Okay.
Lot of South folks wouldn't have heard of these names. Forget about North
Yes.
guys.
Right. Right. Right.
Uh, so we're present in different areas in student housing, and Z vacations fundamentally takes us to a lot of touristy spots. So so there is a play for Zolo at a lot of places. Uh, Zolo co-living is an urban migration phenomenon.
Okay, okay. I remember reading somewhere or hearing on a podcast that India needs about 15 more urban centers to really hit that kind of ambitious goals that India has to be a 5 trillion economy and all that. What is your take on that? Like, what do you see very broad level, macroeconomic level? What will urbanization look like in India? Will it be concentrated in these cities? Will there be new urban centers coming up? Or
There have to be new urban centers. Yeah, these cities are already buckling under the pressure of sort of population. I don't see any way that these cities can take that much load for us to get to our goals in terms of whether you call it GDP or growth or prosperity, whichever way you look at it. There has to be a lot more urban centers which have to be developed. And I am not a subscriber to philosophy of too much of rural-led development. Not that I'm trying to trivialize rural India. It's just that you need to concentrate a population or people or brains. You need to make it easy for them to collaborate, work together, create value, and that technically is what urbanization is. If you look at South Korea, Seoul contributes to 90% of GDP of South Korea.
Yeah, or Japan also
Uh,
similar. Yeah.
Cities contribute. So you got to concentrate, because look, if you and I really want to build something meaningful, we got to like meet often. Uh, we can manage remote on and off as sort of an option, but doesn't really provide the best form of engagement. So there will have to be concentration of humanity, where there is more collaboration, more facilities, like simple things like hospitals. If you want, you can't build tertiary hospitals in each village. And if I am thinking about my kid, I would want to live in a place where there is a tertiary care hospital.
Yeah.
uh, Schooling. Some people feel that schooling matters. I'm not one of them, but some people feel schooling matters. And so
So,
I would
what are
want to
the
be in the
upcoming urban locations? Have you seen any trends? Like,
Ahmedabad is coming up well,
okay,
Indore is coming up well. Uh, there is, I mean, some buzz happening on the Chandigarh side as well. Uh, but not close to what one would imagine as per reports. That's my take.
okay, okay.
Uh,
It was a real pleasure.
Indeed, it was a real pleasure, Akshay.